Hi and welcome back to Summoner, and in this part we could finish the sewers right here and now, but there's a few items we need to pick up, a few side quests we need to complete. And that's something I do appreciate about this level's design. You know, your first way through you just reach the palace and you can just do that if you want. But if you want to do the optional side quests, you do need to do some optional exploring. And out of all the dungeons in this game, this one is actually the most complex. By which I mean it has several exits and entrances. Well, when I said it was complex, I just realised there are others which aren't as complex as such, but they are much harder to navigate. Which, when recording this game, that was an aspect which put me off, really. Recording those, you know, getting lost in like a maze or a dungeon or something. But yeah, when I think about it, this dungeon, I mean this sewer, is actually better lit than most dungeons you see in the later on part of the game. But anyway, right now we're on to get a special quest item. We need to walk back here. Now, as I said before, you do need to make sure a lot of doors are unlocked to access all the areas. You know, you can probably remember the first time I walked through here, you know, in the last part, there were quite a few areas which were locked up with steel gates. Like this part here, but now it's open. And in this section here, there isn't anything here now, but we need to go in here and unlock another switch. We need to activate another switch, I should say. I do sort of like these destroyed golems as enemies. And I think golems actually do come fairly often in this game as enemies. More often than you would think. Of course, the original idea of golem was that they were made out of clay. And it came from sort of a Hebrew mythology, and you would supposedly build this giant out of clay, and you could give it orders and it would do what you want. But anyway, with that switch open, that will unlock an area we're about to go to. But if you go through this little side corner here, we should find the green shard, which is for the shards of the Giamatti side quest. And hopefully if we return 3 shards for her, we'll get a very effective sword. Which is made out of I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I think a sword made out of glass shards wouldn't be that powerful. But apparently it is. It has like 75 power. Now, as you can see here, this sort of corridor is, you go back to the entrance of the sewers, and then you sort of turn right. Anyway, I just showed you on the map, but if you turn right, this area will now be unlocked. There was obviously there was a gate here, and I think the spinning turning wheel that we just turned in that side section unlocks it. And the reason why I'm unsure is it's not really made clear which switch opens which door, unless you see it open yourself. But anyway, while I'm here, I'll heal up Joseph to about 8. Oh, and heavy arms. Now that's an important skill as well, because that dictates what kind of weapons you can equip. Like the more powerful weapons require more heavy arms skills. Now, as for Fleece, I'll level up her appraise value here, because you need it to be at least 10 for a certain side quest. And again, that's the trouble with Fleece. She has too many good skills. You know, I want to level up her backstab, her trip, her lockpick, her appraise, her sword weapons. But unfortunately, you just won't have all those skills available to you. Anyway, in this sort of waterfall section, we have this signet ring, which we'll complete from Poirot's side quest. And I remember the very first time I played these sewer levels, I actually didn't know these optional sections were here. And I came back at the later half of the game and discovered them. And I was thinking, what are all these items here? But anyway, at least they make these sections optional. You don't have to go down there if you don't want to. It's only if you want to complete some certain side quests. Now here comes what I find a quite interesting part of the game. Although in a sense it is quite grim, because we've been killing these Batchoid enemies, but you can see it. They have like a little civilization, or at least they have a culture. There are enemies here like called the Batchoid Shaman. So does that mean they have a religion? And you can see they have like little houses they made. It makes you wonder how advanced these creatures are. And it's kind of grim. We've been sort of killing them. But then again, I said before, this game doesn't use orcs or creatures like that. But I guess this is sort of the equivalent, like a really primitive, animalistic civilization. And again, that's the thing I'll give them credit for. They didn't go for like the traditional orcs and goblins. They actually came up with a creature of their own. These sort of Batchoids. Who, yeah, I kind of like their design. They're kind of like praying mantises, which is all good. As for these Shaman, I guess something you don't really encounter too much in this game is spellcasters. But as you can see, they're fairly weak against physical attacks. And while someone is casting spells, if they get attacked or interrupted, they stop casting that spell. So really, magic users aren't really that big of a deal. Well, I guess they are, but the point is you know how to deal with them. Just attack them physically. And you can also see the fiery falcon here comes in useful. Yeah, is really useful. I'm trying to say. But yeah. Anyway, this is a really interesting part of the sewers. It's their little civilizations. Through two broken walls. You can see there's like a little camp here. Again, it does make you regretful about killing them. Oh well. RPG, logic, game morality. Now I think this game, it was inspired heavily by Dungeons and Dragons. I say that because there's like a little extra comedy sketch in this game where the characters of the game are playing like a funny D&D cuts, playing like it's like a little D&D parody. And I actually put this with the cutscene videos as well. So if you want to check that out, it's there for you. But anyway, I was saying, the thing is with Dungeons and Dragons, granted I'm not an expert, but what I do know is that they have alliances of like good and evil. And so you do get some creatures which are technically born evil. Which I guess is handy. It takes away a bit of the morality choice, I suppose. Making sure I pick up all these Batchoid tails. And again, I'm actually leveling up fairly frequently. Again, want to put some point into the backstab ability. And also the sword ability. And here we go, this is what I was talking about. See, they've made little tents. And I just, looked at it from their perspective. Some guys just broke into their homes and slaughtered them all. Oh boy, this game is quite grim. But anyway, lying amongst all their personal possessions is the Ring of Health for a start, which adds 30 H points. Very useful. And also the Ragdoll item. I'm not sure why they decided to keep that, but if you give that back to the butcher, that will complete that side quest. Another aspect of this game is, of course, the jewellery, and the Ring of Health is one of the more useful items, gives you 30 more health. Anyway, back to the levers, and again, instead of heading towards the palace, we carry on down this route to complete the other side quests. Now, as for these golems, granted they're fairly powerful, and if you attack them, they can wear down your health with their powerful physical attacks. But really, their speed is their biggest Achilles heel. You can see I'm getting like numerous fire arrows at him before he even gets close to me. Now, around the corner we're introduced to a sort of... Actually, that's the wrong corner. I'm still shooting this guy with the fire arrows. What I mean is, around this corner we're introduced to some new enemies, and these are thieves, human-ish enemies. And again, there are 3 of them here, but try and lure 1 or 2 of them away. Don't try and take all 3 of them on at once, and that's a very important tactic when completing this game. And another tactic I use here is just to cast fire arrow again and again. But as you can see, the biggest problem with that is that whenever Joseph gets attacked, he'll stop casting the spell, which can be quite infuriating. But luckily, with the fiery falcon in hand, I'm slowly wearing these guys down. And again, I think in a previous part I was talking about reusing the same model. And yeah, this is just like the shady guy with the eye patch. You know, you probably can't make it out from the YouTube video, but it's the same model again and again. But maybe I shouldn't be too hard on the game. It is a PS2 game. I'm holding it up to a higher standard than I really should. Damn these enemies. Oh, and here's another sort of a tactic you should do, is I think it's more important when you play this game to whittle down the enemies. So I got Fleece and Joseph attacking one person at the same time, and then they both move on to the next guy, rather than making it a one-on-one fight with each of them. It's a shame Fleece doesn't have a trip and backstab ability worked out, because otherwise, once she learns those abilities, human enemies aren't really a problem at all. Oh, and here's the salt for the salt lass. The sea salt. She sells sea salt by the seashore and all that. But yeah, that salt will complete the Salt Smuggler's quest. What I find is interesting is up to the right there you saw like a little grate, like a little doorway you can't open, and I presume that's where they came in. Anyway, we talked to this guy Servile, and something I'm not too keen on in this game is that whenever you talk to someone, your characters will automatically put their sword away, which means whenever the fight breaks out, you're already at a disadvantage. But fortunately, after saying that, I just realised this is one of the few instances where Joseph will automatically pull out his sword and start attacking anyway. Anyway, Servile, not even sure this guy counts as a mini-boss. He's a named enemy, so I suppose he does. But yeah, I'll just whittle him down with 2 people. Now when it comes to weapons, Fleece, you see there, she can use swords and crossbows, but we've got some fancy silk garments here, lovely. But I think for the most part you just want to give her a dagger. And with that we've completed the side quests in the sewers. This time we can now move on to the palace.